Volume 2, Tape Number 1, Side A, Lesson 1, A Letter from Larry.
Listen to this conversation between Dave and Sally.
What's that, Dave?
It's a letter from a friend of mine. His name's Larry.
Where does he live?
His home's in San Francisco, but he's working in New York now.
What's his job?
He's an engineer. He designs machines.
That's an interesting job. I suppose he gets a good salary.
Yes, but he's always very busy.
How often do you see him?
Only 2 or 3 times a year, but he's coming here next week.
Is he coming on business?
Yes, but he's going to be free on Saturday. We're going to have dinner together on Saturday evening.
That's nice.
Listen, Sally, why don't you come with us? I can introduce you to Larry.
Thanks, Dave, but...
We can invite Mary, too.
That's a good idea. Okay. What time shall we make it?
How about 7 o'clock? I know a nice Chinese restaurant near the station.
Oh, good. I love Chinese food. Mary does, too.
And after dinner, we can go to my house and listen to records.
That's going to be fun.
Now, answer these questions. Did Dave get a letter?
Yes, he did.
Was it a letter from Larry?
Yes, it was.
Who's Larry?
He's a friend of Dave's.
Larry's working in San Francisco now, isn't he?
No, he isn't.
Where's he working?
He's working in New York.
What's his job?
He's an engineer.
What sort of work does he do?
He designs machines.
Is that an interesting or a boring job?
It's an interesting job.
Does Larry get a good salary or a poor one?
He gets a good salary.
Is Larry coming here next week or the week after next?
He's coming here next week.
Is he coming on business or for a vacation?
He's coming on business.
When's he going to be free?
He's going to be free on Saturday.
What are Dave and Larry going to do together?
They're going to have dinner together.
Did Dave invite Sally to have dinner with them?
Yes, he did.
Sally didn't want to go alone, did she?
No, she didn't.
Are they going to meet at 7 or at 8?
They're going to meet at 7.
Are they going to go to a French or a Chinese restaurant?
They're going to go to a Chinese restaurant.
Where is the restaurant?
It's near the station.
What kind of food does Sally love?
She loves Chinese food.
Can they go to Dave's house or Sally's house after dinner?
They can go to Dave's house.
Whose house can they go to?
They can go to Dave's house.
When can they go to Dave's house?
They can go after dinner.
End of Lesson 1. Lesson 2. Introducing Nancy Green.
Listen to this narrative about Nancy Green. Nancy Green is 23. She lives with her family on Long Island, New York. She has 2 younger brothers and 2 younger sisters. Nancy is a very intelligent young lady, and she has a very interesting job. She works for a women's magazine and writes articles about ladies' fashions. Her office is on Madison Avenue in Manhattan. Nancy goes to the office 5 days a week. She doesn't work on Saturdays, so she's always free on weekends. On weekday mornings, she gets up at 7 and has breakfast at 7:30. She leaves the house at 8 and drives to the station about 2 miles away. She takes the 8:15 train and arrives at Grand Central Station at 8:40, so it takes her 25 minutes from Long Island to Manhattan. Then she takes the subway to Madison Avenue. Nancy's working day lasts 8 hours, from 9 in the morning to 5 in the evening. She has lunch at a restaurant near the office at about 1 o'clock. She usually gets home at about 6:30 in the evening. Now, answer these questions. How old is Nancy Green?
She's 23.
Does she live with her family?
Yes, she does.
Does she live on Long Island or in Manhattan?
She lives on Long Island.
What kind of magazine does she work for?
She works for a women's magazine.
What kind of articles does she write?
She writes articles about ladies' fashions.
Is she busy or free on weekends?
She's free on weekends.
Does she get up at 7 o'clock on weekday mornings?
Yes, she does.
Does she have breakfast at 7:30 or at 8?
She has breakfast at 7:30.
What time does she leave the house?
She leaves the house at 8.
Is the station about 2 miles or 4 miles away?
It's about 2 miles away.
Does she walk or drive to the station?
She drives to the station.
How far is the station from her house?
It's about 2 miles from her house.
Does she take the 8:15 train or the 8:25 train?
She takes the 8:15 train.
Nancy's working day lasts from 9 to 5, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
How long does her working day last?
It lasts 8 hours.
Does she have lunch at the office or in a restaurant?
She has lunch in a restaurant.
Where is the restaurant?
It's near her office.
What time does Nancy usually get home?
She usually gets home at 6:30.
Now, imagine that you are Nancy's friend and ask her some questions. Ask her how old she is.
How old are you?
Ask her how many brothers and sisters she has.
How many brothers and sisters do you have?
Ask her if she has an interesting job.
Do you have an interesting job?
Ask her what kind of articles she writes.
What kind of articles do you write?
Ask her how often she goes to the office.
How often do you go to the office?
Ask her if she's free on weekends.
Are you free on weekends?
Ask her what time she gets up on weekday mornings.
What time do you get up on weekday mornings?
Ask her how long her working day lasts.
How long does your working day last?
End of Lesson 2. Lesson 3. An interview with Mr. DuPont.
This is another narrative about Nancy Green. Listen.
As you know, Nancy Green works for a women's magazine and writes articles about ladies' fashions. Of course, she has to find ideas for her articles, so she often attends fashion shows. She sometimes interviews dress designers, too. Last week, Nancy made an appointment with René DuPont, a well-known dress designer from Paris. Mr. DuPont was in New York for a few days, and Nancy wanted to interview him about his spring collection. Nancy visited Mr. DuPont at his hotel on Fifth Avenue. The appointment was for 12 o'clock, and she arrived 5 minutes early. But Mr. DuPont wasn't in the hotel when she arrived, and she had to wait almost an hour for him. When he finally arrived, Nancy was a bit angry, but Mr. DuPont apologized for the delay and invited her to lunch. It was an expensive lunch, and the food was French. Nancy enjoyed it very much. Mr. DuPont was charming, and they had a long talk about ladies' fashions in Paris and New York. The next day, Nancy wrote an interesting article about Mr. DuPont's spring collection, and the editor of the magazine was very pleased.
Now, answer these questions. Did Nancy make an appointment last week?
Yes, she did.
Who did she make an appointment with?
She made an appointment with René DuPont.
Isn't he a well-known dress designer?
Yes, he is.
He isn't from Paris, is he?
Yes, he is.
Who is the dress designer?
René DuPont is.
What did Nancy want to interview Mr. DuPont about?
She wanted to interview him about his spring collection.
Where did Nancy visit Mr. DuPont?
She visited him at his hotel.
What time was the appointment for?
It was for 12 o'clock.
How long did she have to wait?
She had to wait almost an hour.
She was a bit angry, wasn't she?
Yes, she was.
Mr. DuPont apologized, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
What did he apologize for?
He apologized for the delay.
What did he invite Nancy to?
He invited her to lunch.
What kind of food did they have?
They had French food.
Was it a cheap or expensive lunch?
It was an expensive lunch.
Who was charming?
Mr. DuPont was.
Did they talk about the weather or about Mr. DuPont's spring collection?
They talked about Mr. DuPont's spring collection.
Nancy wrote an article, didn't she?
Yes, she did.
What did she write about?
She wrote about Mr. DuPont's spring collection.
Was the editor of the magazine pleased?
Yes, he was.
Now, imagine you are Nancy's friend and ask her some questions. Ask her if she has to find ideas for her articles.
Do you have to find ideas for your articles?
Ask her if she ever goes to fashion shows.
Do you ever go to fashion shows?
Ask her who she sometimes interviews.
Who do you sometimes interview?
Ask her who she made an appointment with.
Who did you make an appointment with?
Ask her if she interviewed Mr. DuPont about his spring collection.
Did you interview Mr. DuPont about his spring collection?
End of Lesson 3. Lesson 4. Nancy's fiancé.
It is Monday morning. Nancy Green is talking to Frank Howard, the editor of her magazine. Listen to their conversation.
Good morning, Nancy.
Good morning, Frank. Did you have a good weekend?
It was a busy weekend for me. My wife decided to visit some relatives, and I had to stay home and look after the children. What about you?
Oh, I had a terrific time. I went to Bill's house on Saturday and we went swimming.
Bill's house? Who's Bill?
He's my fiancé. Didn't I tell you about him before?
No, you didn't. What's he like?
He's wonderful. He's tall, dark, and handsome, and he has a brand new sports car.
Does he live on Long Island, too?
Yes, about 10 miles away from my place. I met him at a party last year.
What's his job?
He's an architect. He works for a big construction company.
So, you went swimming with your fiancé on Long Island. The beach was crowded, I suppose.
Oh, no. It was a private beach. It belongs to Bill's family, and it's right in front of his house.
Very nice.
Yes, and we had a barbecue lunch on the beach. Bill's mother cooked it. It was great.
What was the weather like?
It was a beautiful sunny day. There wasn't a cloud in the sky.
I like clouds.
You do?
Yes, little white ones, not big gray ones.
Well, little white clouds are okay, I suppose.
Well, you certainly had a nice weekend, Nancy.
Yes, Saturday was wonderful, but Sunday wasn't so nice.
Some other time, Nancy. We have some work to do now.
Now, answer these questions. Who had to stay home last weekend?
Frank did.
Who did he have to look after?
He had to look after the children.
Who had a terrific time?
Nancy did.
Whose house did she go to?
She went to Bill's house.
Who's Bill?
He's Nancy's fiancé.
Did Nancy go to Bill's house on Saturday or on Sunday?
She went on Saturday.
What's Bill like?
He's tall, dark, and handsome.
What kind of car does he have?
He has a brand new sports car.
Does Bill live in Manhattan or on Long Island?
He lives on Long Island.
How far is Bill's house from Nancy's?
It's about 10 miles.
Did Nancy meet Bill at the office?
No, she didn't.
Where did she meet him?
She met him at a party.
When did she meet him at a party?
She met him last year.
What's Bill's job?
He's an architect.
Did Bill and Nancy go to a public beach or a private one?
They went to a private beach.
Who does the beach belong to?
It belongs to Bill's family.
What kind of lunch did they have?
They had a barbecue lunch.
Were there any clouds in the sky?
No, there weren't.
Does Frank like big gray clouds?
No, he doesn't.
What kind of clouds does he like?
He likes little white ones.
Now, imagine you are Frank and ask Nancy some questions. Ask her if she went to Bill's house.
Did you go to Bill's house?
Ask her what her fiancé's name is.
What's your fiancé's name?
Ask her what he's like.
What's he like?
Ask her what kind of car he has.
What kind of car does he have?
Ask her if she and Bill went to a private beach.
Did you and Bill go to a private beach?
Ask her if the beach belongs to Bill's family.
Does the beach belong to Bill's family?
Ask her who cooked the barbecue lunch.
Who cooked the barbecue lunch?
Ask her if she likes little white clouds.
Do you like little white clouds?
End of Lesson 4. Lesson 5. A Rainy Sunday.
Today, you are going to hear more about Nancy Green and her fiancé Bill. Listen.
As you know, Nancy went to Bill's house last Saturday and she had a terrific time. On Saturday evening, Bill took Nancy home in his car, and they decided to play tennis the next day. The next day was Sunday, of course, and Nancy got up early and went to church with her family. The weather was bad. It was a gray, cloudy day, and it started to rain at about 10 o'clock. It certainly wasn't a good day for tennis. Nancy's mother said, "You can't play tennis today, Nancy. Why don't you invite Bill to dinner?" Nancy telephoned Bill's house, and Bill's mother answered the phone.
Hello? Mrs. Crawford speaking.
Hello, Mrs. Crawford. Can I speak to Bill, please?
Yes, of course, Nancy. Bill, Nancy's on the phone. She wants to speak to you.
Just a minute, I'm changing.
Just a minute, Nancy. He's changing his clothes at the moment. It's a miserable day, isn't it?
Yes, but yesterday was beautiful. I had a terrific time at your house, and your barbecue lunch was wonderful.
Thank you, Nancy. We always like to see you. Oh, here's Bill now.
Hello, Nancy. Sorry you had to wait. I was changing.
That's all right. Well, we can't play tennis after all.
No, not in this rain. It's a pity, isn't it? Why don't we go bowling or something?
Oh, no, Bill. I'm no good at bowling. Why don't you come over to our house for dinner? Mother wants you to come.
Sure. You have dinner at 1:30 on Sundays, don't you?
That's right. And after dinner, we can play cards with the family or just sit and watch TV.
That's a nice way to spend a miserable Sunday. Okay, Nancy. See you soon.
Now, answer these questions. Who took Nancy home?
Bill did.
How did he take her home?
He took her home in his car.
When did he take her home?
He took her home on Saturday evening.
Did they decide to go swimming the next day?
No, they didn't.
What did they decide to do?
They decided to play tennis.
What was the weather like?
It was bad.
What sort of day was it?
It was a gray, cloudy day.
Was it a good day for tennis?
No, it wasn't.
Can they play tennis in the rain?
No, they can't.
Who said, "Why don't you invite Bill to dinner?"
Nancy's mother did.
Did Nancy's mother telephone?
No, she didn't.
Why did Nancy telephone Bill's house?
Because she wanted to invite Bill to dinner.
Why did Nancy have to wait?
Because Bill was changing.
Did they have the barbecue lunch on Saturday or on Sunday?
They had it on Saturday.
Did they have the barbecue lunch at Nancy's home or at Bill's home?
They had it at Bill's home.
Why didn't Nancy want to go bowling?
Because she's no good at bowling.
What time does Nancy's family have dinner on Sundays?
They have dinner at 1:30 on Sundays.
Can they play cards with Nancy's family or Bill's family?
They can play cards with Nancy's family.
Or they can sit and watch TV, can't they?
Yes, they can.
Playing cards or watching TV is a nice way to spend a miserable Sunday, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Now, ask Nancy these questions. Ask her who took her home in his car.
Who took you home in his car?
Ask her if she went to church with her family.
Did you go to church with your family?
Ask her who she wants to speak to.
Who do you want to speak to?
Ask her if Sunday was a gray, cloudy day.
Was Sunday a gray, cloudy day?
Ask her if playing cards is a nice way to spend a miserable Sunday.
Is playing cards a nice way to spend a miserable Sunday?
End of Lesson 5. End of Side A.